At first, it was for $1 million. I gave myself to Jonathan. Now his fiancée has found me. She hopes I will leave. I am with Jonathan. It was all for money. Who would like a person with limited mobility? I turned and left the café. Jonathan was still standing behind the screen, not moving at all, in the bedroom. Sunlight streamed in through the sheer curtains. I tried to move a bit. My whole body ached. My legs felt as if they had been run over by a wheel. Jonathan was already awake. He was lying on his side, one hand propping up his head. His gaze fell on me. I looked up and saw his handsome face and deep eyes. Feeling a bit uneasy, I quickly looked away. Even though we have been living together for nearly 5 years, but looking at you still brings me joy. Good morning, boss. I smiled slightly, quickly got up and put on my clothes, then picked up Jonathan's prosthetic limb, helped him attach it. After everything was ready, I still had to catch the subway to the office. I was just about to leave, but I couldn't help turning back to ask one question. Jonathan, you have something to tell me. Jonathan looked up at me. He put down the cup in his hand. Don't you already know? Why ask anything more? Jonathan is about to get engaged. The fiancée is the daughter of the Anderson Group. As soon as the news broke yesterday afternoon, it immediately became the headline on major media platforms. The colleague across from me spent the whole afternoon following this matter. He was completely distracted from work. I heard some rumors from various sources that were hard to verify. For example, Jonathan is marrying the daughter of the Anderson Group. It's rumored that it's because the Thompson Group had financial issues. The main character in the rumors, Jonathan, is the son of the Thompson Group's leader and his first wife. Although he is the eldest son, he is not valued. He doesn't hold any position in the company. He only has a nominal position in the company, no actual power. The true heir nurtured by the Thompson family is Christopher, the second son of the second wife. Initially, both families wanted the Anderson Group's heiress to marry Christopher. But unexpectedly, this young lady fell in love with Jonathan. She disregarded her family's objections. She insisted on marrying him. Now, she has finally fulfilled her wish. What a deeply affectionate person. I saw this news yesterday. I was so happy that I almost jumped up. The clouds are gradually dispersing, and the sky is brightening. I will finally be free. But for some reason, there's an indescribable discomfort in my heart. I still clearly remember the first time I met Jonathan. It's quite poignant to think about. I was only 21 years old back then. I had just graduated from college. As soon as my internship ended, I lost my job. I was in desperate need of money. I really needed it very much. My dad was tricked by a friend into gambling in Las Vegas. He lost all our family assets in one night. He also owes over $1 million. My mom ran away overnight. I heard she went south to work. After that, there was no news. My dad cried and said, "Emily, Dad has raised you for 15 years. Now it's your turn to repay me. You can't just ignore me." He cried with tears all over his face. It hurt my heart to see him. If it weren't for him, I might still be in the orphanage now. Dad, I will do my best. But you must promise me never to gamble again. Dad swore to the heavens. He said if he gambled again, he would be cut off from descendants. It's really ridiculous. You have already cut off your descendants, no matter what. I can't just walk away like my mom did. I was too naive back then. I thought I could repay $1 million with my own efforts. I studied accounting. It took a lot of effort to find a cashier job at a small company. After deducting the 5 insurances and 1 housing fund, I take home $3,500 each month. My best friend Sophie says I sing pretty well. She suggested I perform as a resident singer at a bar. She said I could earn much more than my salary that way. I'm very interested. I'm a bit eager. The bar Sophie introduced me to is called Ocean. Her cousin Michael works there as a manager. He said he could help arrange for me to get in. New Year's Day had just passed. Michael took me to Ocean. The weather was gloomy that day. It was lightly snowing. It was particularly cold. Jonathan was sitting on a black leather sofa smoking. Amidst the swirling smoke, I gradually saw his face clearly. My first reaction was, this guy is really good-looking. He looks a bit familiar. I quickly searched my mind for male celebrities, but I couldn't find anyone who resembled him. He looked gloomy and aloof, just like the weather outside. It's quite oppressive. Michael said, "Jonathan, this is Emily. She's my sister's classmate. She's here to audition as a singer." Jonathan squinted at me. He asked, "Have you sung in a bar before?" "No. I'm worried he won't want me." I quickly said, "Boss, I'm not bad at singing. I won first place in a singing competition at school. Can I sing 2 songs for you?" Jonathan smiled slightly. I sang Adele's Someone Like You. There are a few lines in the lyrics. You know how the time flies only yesterday was the time of our lives we were born and raised in a summer haze, bound by the surprise of our glory days. You always pretend you're not hurting. After the song ended, I noticed Jonathan hadn't spoken. I felt a bit disappointed, so I spoke up. How about this? I'll sing another one and give it a try. Just come to work directly tomorrow night. I successfully became a resident singer at Ocean. Overall, things have been going smoothly. Occasionally, I encounter some unruly guests, but fortunately, they aren't particularly difficult to handle. Michael always helps me solve problems. One day, a man covered in tattoos, looking lean and capable, came in. Everyone called him Jack. Jack seemed quite dominant. He ordered 5 high-pitched songs in a row. During those days, I was feeling unwell from staying up late. After singing, my throat was dry and itchy. Even swallowing felt painful. My throat has been injured before. I'm always worried that I might lose my voice. Jack said I sang quite well. He ordered 3 more songs. I was afraid that if I sang any longer, my throat would have problems, and the quality would deteriorate. It would negatively affect my performance. I'm sorry, Jack. My work for today ends here. How about I get another singer to take over? What do you think? No, that's not acceptable. I just love to hear you sing. Keep singing, not a single song can be missed. Jack's eyes widened in anger. The little brothers behind him also started to cheer. This is the first time I've encountered such a situation. I'm feeling a bit anxious inside. Tonight, Michael just happened to be on leave. The manager tried to persuade for a long time, but it was useless. In the end, he left. I felt even more isolated and helpless. Jack opened a bottle of beer in the audience. He shouted loudly at me on stage. Come on, the first song is Rolling in the Deep. Sing for me. I felt like I was pushed onto a high platform. A helpless lamb unable to resist. I helplessly cleared my throat. I decided to go all out. There's a fire starting in my heart. She stopped singing. I was taken aback for a moment. I saw Jonathan limping over here. That was the first time I saw him walk. I felt very surprised. At the same time, I felt a bit regretful. He has a delicate and perfect face, but his body has defects. This makes me ponder, is this arrangement really fair? Jack stepped forward. Looking up, he asked in a firm tone, Who are you? You said you wouldn't sing, so you won't sing, Jonathan said calmly. I am the boss here. Then he retorted. Business must follow rules. I paid to request a song. Why isn't she singing? The younger brothers started to stir. The scene suddenly became chaotic. The security and waitstaff were stunned. No one dared to step forward. I worried that Jonathan would get hurt. Suddenly, I gathered my courage. I rushed in front of him. I opened my arms to protect him. I said to Jack. I was singing, but my throat wasn't feeling well. I didn't sing well. Please bear with me. I feel like Jonathan is watching me from above. Jack is looking at me with a smile, his eyes filled with admiration. The young girl is quite bold. Go ahead and sing. If you sing well, there will be rewards. I turned around to prepare to go on stage. Suddenly, I swayed. I stumbled and sat down on the chair. Jonathan saw this. He immediately grabbed Jack and started hitting him. I watched in surprise. Although his legs weren't very agile, his movements were surprisingly quick. However, in front of so many people, he still took a few hits. I was a bit worried. Suddenly, I saw a little brother holding a wine bottle, about to smash it on Jonathan's head. Suddenly, I heard a buzzing sound in my ear. Everything around me suddenly turned pitch black. Someone coldly said, You're lucky this time. The first thing Jonathan said after I woke up was, I had been unconscious for 2 days and 2 nights. A concussion has caused slight memory loss, but it may gradually recover. I don't really care. It's fine if the memory doesn't recover. Forgetting might even be better. You should rest for a few days. I'll find someone to replace you. I heard this sentence. My heart suddenly tightened. Boss, I've already recovered. I can go on stage to sing tonight. Jonathan frowned. You really don't care about your life for money. Are you really that short on money? I nodded. Yes, I'm indeed very short on money. There's no money. Those debt collectors will eventually come knocking. My phone has almost been blown up by their calls. Every time I hear those fierce threats, I tremble in fear. My dad is quite good at hiding. He told me he was working as a laborer on a construction site to make money. He wants to work hard to pay off the debt with me. I don't know whether to cry or laugh. I even thought about selling my kidney. Jonathan asked, How much? I don't understand what he means by that. Is he trying to repay me for saving his life? So he plans to lend me money. I gestured with my index finger. I said a bit shyly, 100. 1,000, Jonathan laughed. It was rare on his usually gloomy face, really unusual. Emily, let's make a deal. This deal lasted a long time once it was made. I agreed to accompany Jonathan for 2 years. The reward is 1 million. During this period, if he loses interest in me, the relationship can be terminated. But the money is non-refundable. 2 years have passed. My dad's gambling habit hasn't changed. When Jonathan gave me money again, I worried he would think I was too greedy. But he was very straightforward when he took out the money. It seemed he hadn't lost interest in me. I've gradually adapted to this kind of life. During the day, I work as an ordinary employee at the company. At night, I sing at a bar. Jonathan and Isabella, the daughter of the Anderson Group, are getting engaged next month. I'm busy looking for a place to live. I've saved some money over the past 2 years. My dad has also stopped gambling. He suffered because of gambling. His right hand got injured. It's even inconvenient for him to use chopsticks. I send him some living expenses every month so he can live a more stable life. After work, I took the intermediary's electric bike to view the apartment. As I passed by the high-end dress shop on the street, I saw Jonathan and Isabella. The intermediary said the bike ran out of power. He asked me to wait for a moment. He went to borrow a battery from a colleague. Through the glass window, Jonathan was wearing a dark gray suit. He stood very straight. He looked very energetic. Isabella was wearing a crimson-fitted dress. Her hair was styled up. Her neck looked elongated. His figure is also very good. He looks like someone who exercises regularly. They stand together. They look particularly well-matched. Jonathan lied to me. When we first got together, he told me he would never get married in his life. I was daydreaming. Jonathan noticed me. I was wearing a helmet. I couldn't see his expression, but I still smiled at him. He gave me a thumbs up. He gave me a like. I felt happy for him, and also happy for the freedom that was about to come to me. In the evening, I went to the apartment where Jonathan lived. I started packing my things. He looked very pale. He seemed very uncomfortable. He still had a faint smell of alcohol on him. I was a bit confused. Wasn't he quite happy when trying on the suit during the day, but given his elusive personality, this is considered normal. You seem quite happy. The voice from behind was cold. My hands trembled slightly as I folded the clothes. I turned my head. I smiled and said to him, "You're getting engaged." "Of course I'm happy for you, Jonathan. Congratulations." Jonathan sneered slightly. "You're happy for yourself, right?" I honestly nodded in acknowledgement. "It's half and half, bang." The cup smashed against the wall. It made a loud bang. My heart raced a few beats faster. I was stunned for a moment. Except for that time I got into a fight at the bar. This was the first time I saw him so angry. The surroundings were so quiet it made me uneasy. I was completely at a loss. Just then, a warmth came from behind me. Jonathan gently hugged me from behind. His breath brushed softly past my ear. My heartbeat instantly lost its rhythm. He asked softly, "Emily, what are you really thinking?" I completely dare not move. What happened to him? Jonathan gently kissed my ear and neck. It made me feel uneasy. He buried his face in my shoulder. He said in a low and firm voice, "You have no heart." I held his hand, gently pressing it against my chest. "Ask him. Can you feel it? It feels like there's a rabbit in there." Jonathan is very crazy. I accidentally hurt his leg several times. His pained expression is hard to read. I was thinking, this is the last time. Just indulge him once. The next day, I called for a delivery service. The driver was helping me move things. I don't have much luggage. I usually don't buy things. I haven't added anything in the past few years. The jewelry and bags that Jonathan gave me, I have already sold them on a second-hand platform. Saving money brings a sense of security. Then buy some financial products. Every year, there can be a little profit. Jonathan is not happy about this. Say it. "Emily, you think I'm a fool?" "Oh, boss, since you gave it to me. It's mine now. Why are you still reluctant?" Since then, Jonathan no longer buys me luxury items. When he's in a good mood, he just transfers money to me directly. I'm quite happy about that. I often try to make him happy. This way, everyone is satisfied. After organizing everything, I walked around the room. My throat felt like it was blocked by something. My heart also felt a pang of sadness. The aunt reminded me, "Little girl, this is the last package. We should get going. The driver is carrying the luggage." He urged me to hurry up. "Okay, I'm leaving soon. Do you still want this photo? If not, I can throw it away for you." I received a yellowed photo from my master. In the photo, there is a boy about 11 or 12 years old. He has a delicate appearance. He is smiling brightly. He stands in front of a flower bed of a villa. Next to him is an elegant woman. They both have some resemblance. I immediately thought of Jonathan and his mother. I stared at Jonathan. His legs are perfectly fine. He is wearing a pair of white sneakers. At that moment, memories suddenly surged to the forefront of my mind. Those past events, whether good or bad, came rushing back like a tide. I couldn't help but tremble all over. My grandmother sold me to a human trafficker. The villagers said. My biological parents, during a quarrel. My dad accidentally killed my mom. They claimed to the outside that my mom fell out of bed by herself. The head injury led to her death. No one from my grandmother's side investigated this matter, and no one called the police. My biological father left home because he couldn't stand the village gossip. So he left the family. Perhaps he felt guilty inside. So he never came back again. At that time, I was still an infant. My grandfather passed away early. I lived with my grandmother. When I was a child, other kids always said I was the daughter of a murderer. I told my grandmother these words. As a result, she slapped me hard twice. Since then, I never dared to mention my parents again. My grandmother spoke harshly. She would often scold me loudly. Getting beaten was also a common occurrence. My childhood was always filled with hunger and cold, and I was often looked down upon. Every time I was beaten, I just wanted to escape from here. Let's go see what's on the other side of the mountain. So, when the trafficker said they would take me away, I was actually very happy. The trafficker was an old woman about the same age as my grandmother. My grandmother called her Liu Posey. Liu Posey said, "Child, I will take you to the big city so you can have a good life. Is that okay? Can I go to school?" Yes, of course. I was full of excitement, but my grandmother rolled her eyes in displeasure. Through the crack in the door, I saw the trafficker handing my grandmother a large stack of money. "This is 5,000 yuan. Count it." My grandmother smiled so much that her wrinkles smoothed out. She dipped her index finger in some saliva and started counting the money. I had never seen her so happy. I thought from then on, we would be able to eat our fill. I could also go to school, but unexpectedly, we have walked into the gates of hell. I changed several cars with the old woman. At first, I was very excited. Later, I gradually felt tired. I will sleep for a while, then wake up for a while. Every time I wake up, I find myself still swaying in the car. All the way, I saw cars, tall buildings, and pedestrians. It felt like entering a whole new world. I was immersed in my thoughts. I hadn't come back to my senses yet. The old woman handed me over to a middle-aged man with a sharp face. He said, "The old woman, this girl looks quite charming. I will give you an extra 500 yuan. The old woman smiled widely, just like my grandmother. I saw her about to leave. I quickly grabbed the corner of her clothes. She was no longer as friendly as before. Her expression suddenly changed. "Your grandmother sold you. From now on, you will follow Uncle Ma." I turned to look at the smiling man. The world suddenly became strange and frightening. I was locked in a dirty and smelly room. There were other children inside. Some of the children were teenagers. Some were even younger than me. There were more than 20 children in total. What scared me the most was, these children were not very healthy. Some children had sunken eyes, some had no legs, and some had only half an arm. I cried nonstop. The trafficker initially tried to persuade me. Then he started to hit me and threatened me. He said, "If you cry again, I'll cut off your tongue." I immediately stopped talking. Those injured children left early and returned late every day. Some children would receive praise. During meals, everyone could get a piece of chicken leg. The trafficker said that was called KFC. Some children would be beaten and scolded. They couldn't even get a meal. I quietly asked the girl with a broken arm who shares a bed with me and has no food. She told me, during the day, they go out to beg on the streets. Today, she only managed to beg for 10 yuan, so she was punished. I'm not very familiar with begging. Instead, I kind of want to try it, because that way I could get outside. One night, I was half asleep. I heard the traffickers talking in low voices. They said, "It's such a pity to hurt such a lovely child. You, Zhang Mazi, actually have some compassion. Look at what you've done to this place. What good does it do to say these things? I'm just doing what you instructed. I'm just a person who gets paid to do the job. All right, since you are so compassionate, then there's no need to lay a hand on her. Just make her mute. She hasn't been to school, and she can't write. I'm not worried that she will run away. Okay, I'll go back and prepare some medicine. Administer it according to the dosage. In less than 2 weeks, she won't be able to speak anymore. Sigh, I'm quite curious. What kind of medicine is so powerful? This is a secret recipe passed down from my ancestors. It's a medicine that can damage the vocal cords. It must be taken continuously for 14 times. Missing even one dose won't work. My heart is racing. I'm sure they're talking about me. As expected, after dinner the next day, the trafficker handed me a small packet of powder. He said taking this would make me smarter. Then he took me out. I obediently nodded. While he turned around, I quietly poured the powder out of my collar. The trafficker didn't pay much attention to me taking the medicine. He didn't expect a child from the mountains to be clever, so I only took half of the medicine. The rest I poured out. A few days later, Zhang Mazi has arrived. He indeed has many pockmarks on his face, even a mask can't cover them. He shone a flashlight on my throat. My throat felt like it was blocked with cotton. The pain made my ears and scalp tingle and feel dizzy. Zhang Mazi asked me to try to make a sound. I managed to make a few sounds. My voice sounded like a duck quacking by the river in the village. Just a couple more days of this, and it should be fine, Zhang Mazi said confidently. I was so nervous that my palms were sweating. Afterward, the trafficker gave me some medicine. I didn't dare to take it. About 2 weeks later, the trafficker asked me to call him uncle to try. I opened my mouth for a long time, but I couldn't make a sound at all. He smiled with satisfaction. Then, the trafficker took me away. We arrived at a bustling square. He found a step to sit on. He said he would keep an eye on me from across the street. If I dared to run off the field, it would be just like Lingling. Lingling is a blind girl. A few days ago, she was knocked out by a trafficker. I haven't seen her since. I nodded gently. I have always been obedient, just like when I was at my grandmother's house. The trafficker set a cardboard box and a sign with words in front of me. Once it was ready, he sat down at the store entrance across the street. Smoking while staring at me, someone stopped in front of me. They looked at the words on the sign. A sympathetic expression appeared on their face. Then they took out money and put it in the box. Before long, the box was stuffed full of bills of various colors. The first day's earnings were quite good. For the next 2 days, the situation went smoothly. The trafficker thought I performed well. He became a bit more at ease with me. After a while, I felt he no longer watched me as closely as before. Occasionally, he would even walk away for a while. That night was particularly cold. There were hardly any people in the square. I looked around and saw no one. I just wanted to see if I really couldn't speak. After all, I hadn't finished taking the medicine Zhang Mazi mentioned. He said it takes 14 doses to be effective. Twinkling, twinkling, shining bright, the sky was full of little stars. This is the first song I learned. A beautiful sister from my village taught me. I sang really poorly, like a duck quacking. The first thing I saw was a pair of white sneakers. I looked up. A tall, thin boy was standing in front of me without me noticing. He was really good-looking, just like I saw on the neighbor's TV, the boy next to the immortal. The boy pointed at the words on the cardboard and said, "It says you are mute." I lowered my head. I felt ashamed. He then asked, "Are you pretending not to speak? Are you here to scam money?" I quickly shook my head. "What about your family?" "I don't have any family." I said it directly. Although my voice wasn't very pleasant, it was much smoother. The boy frowned. He looked at me with doubt. Then he looked down at the words on the box. "It says your mother has cancer." "No, that's not true. I don't have parents." "Brother, can you help me? I was sold here." This thought of asking for help suddenly came to me. The boy was taken aback. He quickly turned to look around. I caught a glimpse of the trafficker just coming out of the convenience store. My heart suddenly panicked. I said to the boy with a choked voice, "Brother, please take me away. The trafficker is over there. He's coming over soon." The trafficker sensed something was wrong. He pointed this way. "He's saying something, but I can't hear it clearly. Stop dazing off. Run quickly." The boy yanked me up. I stumbled along behind him with all my strength. I ran forward. The traffickers were getting closer behind us. He was still shouting, "Don't run. Dad won't hit you anymore. Come home with me quickly. Kid, don't run. Mom is waiting for us at home to eat." The boy was very familiar with this road. After turning a few corners, he led me to an alley. He opened the trash can lid and said, "You quickly hide inside. Don't make a sound. Cover your mouth when you breathe. I'll go find the police." He helped me climb in. As soon as the lid was closed, everything around went dark. I heard his footsteps leaving, then a flurry of hurried footsteps followed. "It seems someone is chasing him." The trafficker shouted, "Little brat, where have you hidden my daughter? You catch up to me, then I'll tell you. You just wait for me. Wait until I catch up to you. I will break your legs." When the police pulled me out of the trash can, I was still asleep. Later, I intermittently heard them talking. The trafficker who caught me has already been caught, but the boy who saved me had an accident while being chased by the traffickers. His left calf was severely injured by a heavy object. The injury was serious and could not be healed. In the end, they had to amputate it. Upon hearing this news, I felt very sad. My heart was in turmoil. I didn't know how to face him. I wanted to express my concern and gratitude to him, but I hesitated a bit. I didn't know whether I should go. The police asked me if I knew my hometown address. They wanted to send me back. I know my grandmother's name. I also know the town we live in. But I didn't tell the truth. I told them, my parents are both gone. Now I live with my elderly grandfather. I can't remember where home is anymore. After that, she resolutely stopped speaking. The police investigated for a while. Coincidentally, that old woman passed away unexpectedly. The clues were cut off like that. I was sent to a welfare home. Many children there were not in good health. Fortunately, my throat recovered well due to timely treatment. After 6 months, my adoptive parents adopted me. They treated me like their own daughter. If it weren't for my adoptive father's bad habit of gambling, my adoptive mother wouldn't have left home. We could have been a happy family of 3. A week later, 1 week later, I saw Jonathan again. It was my last night singing at Ocean Bar. A few familiar colleagues came to see me off. They ordered quite a bit of alcohol. They also ordered some snacks. The bartender Alex asked me if it was enough, and if we needed to get more. I said, Alex, don't get any more. This is already enough for us to eat. The boss said it doesn't matter how much we eat today. He will pay for it all. We don't need to be polite with him. It's Emily's last day. Why didn't the boss come? He's getting married. He's been quite busy lately, right? Everyone was talking back and forth. I pretended to be indifferent on the surface. But inside, I felt a bit sad. I both wanted to see him and was afraid to see him. This conflicting feeling made me unknowingly drink a lot of alcohol. Sophie hugged me tightly. Her chin gently rested on my shoulder. Her tone carried a sense of reluctance. Oh, Emily, I'm really going to miss you. That's right. Many people came here just to hear your songs, hearing others' recognition. It feels amazing. I unknowingly drank a lot of alcohol. I stand up, speak loudly. Come on, let me sing another song for everyone. My mind is very clear, but my body is a bit uncooperative. Sophie walks up on stage with me. I pick up the microphone. I think for a moment. And then I say, you often feel lonely and depressed, always feeling disappointed about your future life. You are always filled with confusion. You often pretend you are not hurt, always wearing a smile. Holding on and being strong, you are afraid of love. Not daring to get close, choosing to give up and avoid. You look into my eyes, listening to my voice. Remember all of this. Sophie beside me listens with tears streaming down her face. I hold her close, asked in a daze, why are you crying? At this moment, I can't help but want to cry too. I have always given everyone the impression of being a cheerful, smiling girl full of positive energy. I hope everyone around me can be happy. Whenever Jonathan is in a bad mood, I try to find ways to cheer him up. However, he often sarcastically speaks to me in a cold tone. I really don't understand what you have to be happy about every day. I'm still not angry. I keep smiling. I feel like ever since I left those people, every day has been quite good. No one knows when I'm alone. I can stay home for an entire week, not contacting friends, not even saying a word. Suddenly, someone shouted, one more song. A few more people joined in the shout, seeing everyone in high spirits. Thinking this is the last time singing here, then sing another song. I'll plug in the microphone, bowed to the audience. Thank you all for your support. Next, I will sing the first song I learned. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. The sky is full of little stars. They shine brightly in the sky. They are like countless little eyes, twinkling and sparkling. The entire sky is filled with little stars. They emit light in the sky. Because it wasn't a song requested by a guest, I sang very comfortably. Everyone sang along. The atmosphere was especially joyful. I was closing my eyes, immersed in my own singing. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of the bar entrance. Jonathan was standing there. The light behind him illuminated him, making him look like a finely carved piece of art. Jonathan walked over and sat at the table. Alex said, Jonathan, I thought you weren't coming tonight. It shouldn't be like this. After all, it's Emily's last day at work. Jonathan's expression suddenly turned gloomy. Alex noticed this. He immediately stopped talking. The singing was quite good. Jonathan spoke to me. I smiled happily. Wow, the boss praised me for singing well. This is the first time you've complimented me, boss. I raise a glass to you. I finished it in one gulp. You do as you please. I downed the drink in one go. It tasted bitter and astringent, Sophie said, being praised by the boss. It's really not easy. I've been singing here for almost 5 years. Many people have complimented me, but only Jonathan. He seems indifferent to everything. Jonathan looked at my empty glass. He said calmly, even if I treat you, you shouldn't waste my drinks like this. Finish this bottle and don't drink anymore. Everyone continued to laugh and joke for a while. I feel like I can't stay any longer. It's getting late. I have to go back. The new house is a bit far from here. Alex said, it's okay. I'll give you a ride later. Jonathan frowned. He looked at the empty bottle in front of him. He said, you drank more than she did. Alex patted his chest. He replied, I'll call a designated driver. I saw Jonathan's expression turn a bit grim. He quickly said, no need to trouble yourself. I'll have my friend come pick me up. Jonathan looked at me skeptically. Come on, let's have a hug. My nose felt a bit sour. My throat felt like it was blocked by something. I gently hugged each colleague. I listened to their sincere blessings. The tears couldn't be held back any longer. It's your turn now, Jonathan. I opened my arms wide. Everyone is looking at us with strange eyes. I'm both excited and a bit embarrassed. I actually took the initiative to ask my boss for a hug. They might think Jonathan wouldn't give me this favor. Just when I was about to give up, I fell into a familiar embrace. I didn't have time to care about others' surprised looks. My inner defenses collapsed all at once. It was our first hug in public. To be able to hug you, I had to hug many people first. I leaned on his shoulder, crying with snot and tears. I was shaking all over, but Jonathan's body was as stiff as wood. He didn't move at all. I whispered softly, so quietly that only the two of us could hear. Jonathan, I'm sorry. If it weren't for me, your health would be much better, and life would be happier. Thank you. If it weren't for you, I might have been disabled for a long time, or I might no longer be here. Jonathan, thank you. Congratulations on your upcoming wedding in advance, and everyone else. I will come to see you all often. I wipe away my tears and snot. I force a smile. Jonathan's expression looks a bit gloomy. He must think I'm not quite normal tonight, because this is the first time I've cried in front of him. And I cried so hard. As I walked to the bar door with 2 bags of my things, Daniel happened to arrive on his motorcycle. He took the things from my hands and handed me a women's helmet. I drank a bit too much today, Daniel said softly. I got on the motorcycle. The engine is a bit loud. I'm quite happy tonight. So I had a few more drinks. It won't be like this in the future. Hold on tight. I turned my head and saw Jonathan standing not far away. Maybe it's because I had been drinking, or perhaps it was just a moment of impulse. I leaned my head against Daniel's sturdy back. I wrapped my arms around his waist. Daniel is my neighbor. He is a year older than me. The day I was brought home by my adoptive parents, his mother was holding his hand at the staircase. She greeted us. Daniel looked at me with curious eyes. His mother softly said to him, Daniel, from now on you should play with your sister more. Don't bully her. You understand? Daniel didn't say anything, but I could tell he didn't dislike me. We went to school together every day after class. We did homework together. We often played together on weekends as well. After the college entrance examination, we planned to apply to the same university, but my adoptive parents secretly changed my application choices. At that time, my family's business was getting worse and worse. The economic situation is getting worse day by day. The school they transferred me to is very close to my home. The tuition is also not too expensive. When I received the admission notice, I felt a wave of heaviness in my heart. I almost couldn't catch my breath. Gradually, I accepted reality, and I no longer felt conflicted. I have no right to blame them. The fact of being adopted seems to have been an unchangeable fact from the very beginning. After graduating from university, Daniel gave up a good job in the big city and returned to our city to teach at a university. He once confessed his feelings to me. I wasn't particularly surprised, because I had sensed it before. Daniel has great qualities. His looks, family background, and job are all excellent. He should find a girl with a clean background. Someone like me is not worthy of him. I get off work at the company at 9 o'clock. The finance work is especially busy at the end of the month. When I get busy, I forget the time. I quickly organize the documents, afraid of missing the last subway. At that moment, my phone rang. Beep, beep. I saw Isabella get out of a nearby Mercedes. I felt a mess inside, especially worried that she would find out about Jonathan and me. It seems she already knows. You must be Emily. Let's talk. 15 minutes later, we were already seated in a private room of a Chinese restaurant. Isabella asked me directly, "What will it take for you to leave Jonathan? Is it money?" Isabella, I have no contact with him anymore. Therefore, you don't need to come and tell me this. Isabella poured herself a glass of water and started drinking it. Really? Have you considered leaving Chicago, living somewhere else? I can give you a large sum of money, enough for you and your dad to not worry about food and clothing for the rest of your lives. I can't help but laugh. The girl in front of me is clearly 100 times more capable than I am. Yet she has no confidence at all. She said softly, "I don't want to leave Chicago. I've lived here for so long. I don't want to go anywhere." Isabella raised her eyebrows and said, "Yeah, you definitely don't lack money. Jonathan has given you a lot of money over the years, right? I do like money, but I don't want to be treated with that kind of arrogant attitude." I responded to her with a smile. "That's right. I'm with Jonathan just for the money." Isabella fell silent for a moment. Her fingers lightly tapped on the glass cup. "So, you really have no feelings for Jonathan at all?" "Of course. Who would like a person with a disability?" I saw Isabella suddenly stop breathing. She stared at me in shock. I continued to speak calmly. "Isabella, you can rest assured. I will have no further contact with him. Be a little more confident." These were the last 3 words I said to her. As I walked out of the restaurant, my legs were so weak that I almost fell. It felt as if my heart was being heavily struck by something. Again and again, until it felt like it would shatter. I was sure he heard it. Jonathan was sitting right behind the screen. Jonathan and Isabella's wedding went as planned. Those few days, their news was everywhere. I took a leave of absence, disconnected from the internet and turned off my phone. I hid in a hotel. I slept heavily for a week, until Daniel kicked open my hotel door with a waiter. He rushed over and hugged me tightly. I saw his panicked expression. I couldn't help but find it amusing. After a while, after he confirmed I was okay, walking anxiously back and forth in the room, like an ant on a hot pan, Daniel stands with his hands on his hips. He asks seriously, "Emily, why did you turn off your phone? Are you being too inconsiderate? Everyone is worried about you. Do you know that? Is there still someone who cares about me?" I actually don't care much, but this is the first time I've seen Daniel get angry. He looks like a teacher scolding a disobedient student. I find this quite interesting. "You're still laughing. Emily, you really make people worry. It's just a breakup. What's the big deal? Is it worth lying here for days without eating or drinking?" I obediently listened to Daniel's nagging. After a while, he sat back down beside me, gently stroking my hair. "Emily, I have already asked for leave from school. Let me take you out to relax. You remember when I asked you as a child? Did you want to see the mountains or the sea? You said there was nothing to see in the mountains. You prefer the sea more. Then let's go see the sea. Throw all your worries into the sea." I felt a lump in my throat. I can't remember if I've said something similar before. I sniffed. "Go ahead. Okay, let's go see the sea." Daniel suddenly stood up. Really, he was as happy as a child. 2 years have passed. I heard that Jonathan and Isabella quietly divorced a long time ago. Now they only maintain a marital relationship on the surface. It's actually for the family business. I thought I would feel happy or sad about it, but in reality, I feel nothing at all. Daniel confessed to me again by the sea. I tried to accept him, but I couldn't. Last year, he is with a gentle and intellectual French teacher from his workplace. I think she is the one he should love and spend his life with. I returned to the place where I was born and raised, that small mountain village. There has hardly been any change. It is still as poor as before. My father is still missing. My grandmother has also passed away many years ago. The house we used to live in, it seems to have been demolished by someone. They also raised a few sheep. I once thought this place that scared me. I would never return. In fact, many fears are imagined by ourselves. I returned to live in Chicago. Although Chicago is not big, I have never encountered Jonathan again. Colleagues and friends around me started to introduce me to potential partners. I seem unable to develop feelings for anyone. Living alone is quite nice, free and easy. This is Isabella's story. I love Jonathan, but he does not love me. Because he is the eldest son in the family, he bears the responsibility of the family. He had to agree to get engaged to me. It was the night before the engagement. He told me directly, "Isabella, I don't like you, I understand. He wants me to give up the idea of getting engaged to him, but I just refuse to. I must get what I like. He is not interested in me now, but he might change his mind in the future. Since childhood, I have always been outstanding. no one would dislike me. But I was wrong. He already has someone else by his side. She is an ordinary girl in every way. Her voice is quite pleasant. She has a pair of cute dimples when she smiles. I admit, her smile does bring warmth to people. Maybe that's probably why Jonathan likes her. After all, Jonathan usually has a cold personality. He had a great personality when he was a child, sunny and cheerful. Later, in an attempt to save a kidnapped little girl, he was hit by a car. He lost both his legs. Soon after, his mother also passed away due to illness. After his father remarried, he had a younger brother. All the care and love went to his brother. Jonathan's personality gradually changed. He became indifferent and reclusive. I still like him, no matter what he becomes. After learning about Emily's existence, I was very angry, but I never thought of giving up. I inquired about some things regarding her. She was adopted from an orphanage. Her adoptive father is addicted to gambling. Her adoptive mother is missing. She is with Jonathan because of money. Only then did I feel relieved. Problems that can be solved with money are not real problems. But I never expected. Jonathan has genuine feelings for her. He told me. He already has someone else in his heart. No matter how hard I try, he will never love me. I said to him with a smile, "Jonathan, don't be foolish. Emily won't like you." His expression immediately turned ugly. His eyes were cold. I said, "Let's make a bet. If she likes you too, we will break off the engagement." I invited Emily to the restaurant to guide her to express some of her true feelings. She said, "How could I like someone who is physically challenged?" I was surprised. She could actually do something so decisive. However, I also can't be sure if her words came from the heart. After all, she might just be acting in any case. My goal has been achieved. I told Jonathan. I won. He sat in the booth next to us. He heard all of our conversations. Jonathan didn't say a word. He looked like a listless rabbit. He silently walked out of the restaurant. At that moment, I realized, perhaps I would never win his heart. I still insisted on getting married. I wanted to try harder once more. After getting married, he still never touched me. We each busied ourselves with our own things, just like ordinary housemates. As time went by, I really couldn't continue like this. I also came to understand, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't make him have more feelings for me. I proposed a divorce. This would free him and also free myself. Jonathan's story, I love Emily, but she has no feelings for me, she said. Who would like a person with limited mobility? Her words made me very uneasy. We've been together for so long. I feel like she wasn't telling the truth, but I can't find any evidence to prove she's lying to me. But none of this matters anymore. I'm already married. For the sake of the family's reputation and to fulfill my responsibilities. That was the first time I met Emily. She sang Adele's "Someone Like You." Her voice is very unique, soft yet rich. I also really like the lyrics of this song. That winter was particularly cold. But for the first time, I felt warmth. My bar is usually quite empty. It really needed a singer like her. What surprised me even more was, this little girl was quite brave. To protect me, she rushed in front of the thugs with her arms wide open, like a mother deer protecting her fawn. This makes me feel special, since Mom left. This is the first time I've felt protected by someone. Later, she took a bottle for me. It nearly cost her life. I was determined to win this girl over, no matter what it took. When that thought came to me, I wasn't sure if it was premeditated or just a moment's impulse. On the hospital bed, Emily was startled by me. Her face was pale. I told her to think it over before answering me. She directly said yes, no need to think anymore. At night, I heard her secretly crying under the blanket. I didn't feel sorry for her at all. I only care about what I can get. After the 2-year contract ended, I didn't want her to leave. I quietly sought out her father and came up with a reason together with him. Let Emily stay. This way, we spent another 3 years together, but all this time I haven't seen a single sign of her love for me. In the days leading up to my engagement to Isabella, Emily walked lightly. Her face was beaming with a smile. She was as happy as a little bird. She was finally going to be free. But just thinking about her leaving made me feel like a part of me was missing. It was especially painful. Suddenly, a selfish thought popped into my head. I wanted Emily to stay with me forever, even if it meant using bad methods to keep her. On her last night working at the bar, she sang a song I was familiar with. "Twinkle, twinkle, little star." All I could see were little stars. In the past, I saved a girl who had been trafficked. She also sang this song. Their expressions were exactly the same. I suddenly remembered. Emily seems to be an orphan. It was then that I realized I know very little about her. Emily leaned on my shoulder. She was crying heavily. She apologized to me and said thank you. She has nothing to apologize to me for. It is I who should apologize. I trapped her using dishonorable means. Unless, I suddenly felt a wave of fear. I had someone check her background. That's right. Emily is the little girl I once saved from being trafficked. To save her, I even lost half a leg, and she understood long ago that I saved her. I no longer insisted on keeping her by my side, but I still couldn't help but wonder if she had any feelings for me. She said, "Who would like a person with limited mobility?" This sentence hit me hard. It became the biggest setback in my life. I wasn't this sad when I lost half a leg. I understand. She said that on purpose. It was to reassure Isabella. Even if she doesn't love me, she wouldn't say such things. Emily was the first person to see my disabled leg. In the past, every time we got close, she would gently touch those ugly scars and ask me, "Does it hurt?" I whispered in her ear, "It doesn't hurt anymore, but it still hurts a bit when I exert myself." Emily's face turned as red as an apple. She mumbled quietly, complaining about me. We lay in bed. It looked like a sweet couple, but once we got out of bed, she became particularly cold, as if she wanted to keep her distance from me. We were like two lines that would never intersect. They would remain parallel. I saved Emily. She has saved me too. There are no ties between us anymore, but I still miss her very much.